Hello everybody, my name is Michael Quinn. I'm one of the directors and co-founder of the Quinn Group. Just wanted to say thanks for listening to the Quintessential Podcast. Here's the latest episode and I hope you enjoy it.
You're listening to the Quintessential Podcast, the official podcast of the Quinn Group. Join us as we discuss the latest in legal, accounting, and mergers and acquisitions, helping to provide you with the total solution. Welcome back to episode 4 of the Quintessential Podcast. In our first 3 episodes, we discussed everything to do with selling your business. Today we're talking about starting. So what's involved in starting your business? What are the steps? Well, we've got our co-founder and director, Michael Quinn, with us here today to walk us through. Welcome, Michael.
Thanks, Isabelle. Well, I'm very proud of recently publishing this book with your help, Isabelle, called The Definitive Guide to Starting a Business in Australia. And the reason that I wrote this book was because we, as you know, have many clients who make inquiries of us. Then they're looking at starting a business, and they're people who are located both within Australia and overseas. A number of people overseas are looking at setting up Australian-based subsidiaries or branch offices and want to know the detail in how to go about starting a business in Australia.
Well, that certainly sounds like a very helpful resource, Michael. So let's talk about the outline of the book. What sections are there for our readers?
We've set it up in 3 parts. Part A is before business, the steps that you need to understand prior to starting your business. Part B, setting up your business, what's involved in the actual setup. And Part C, the managing your business, the ongoing management factors involved in running a business.
Wonderful. So, Michael, let's get straight into it. What are the essential steps you need to take when starting your business?
So, yes, that's part A of the book. In chapter 1, we talk about, are you up for the challenge? And basically what I mean by this is that you need to really understand why you want to set up business. Why are you doing it? And there are a number of questions that need to be posed. And these sort of questions we cover, does my business idea meet a real world need? Is it servicing a gap in the market? Is it feasible and realistic? Can I see myself doing this for years? And can the idea be monetized? They're the questions that you need to really answer honestly. Then if you feel that you have an idea that will generate a profitable business, you need to sit down and think about preparing a business plan.
All right, so what's a business plan?
It's a document that involves some research and goal setting, and you go through a business plan checklist, and that business plan checklist covers things like who's going to be the key personnel within the entity, whether it be a company or a trust or a partnership, the profile, the business history, the vision and mission statements, which are very important, the marketing plan for the new business, the legalities of operating this business, the operational plan, management team and human resources information. Very importantly, the financial plan, which you may have to do in conjunction with your accountant.
Of course, yeah.
The risk and contingencies plan, and finally an action plan. An action plan detailing what projects and tasks are required and what deadlines, timeframes should be implemented for them.
Right, so really it's a big detailed overview of what your business is going to look like when you do start it.
That's correct. Yep, that's correct. And it's very worthwhile in preparing this pro forma business plan because it allows someone wanting to set up business to clarify their thoughts, get them down on paper, get those thoughts down on paper, and make sure that the relevant areas are covered well before the business actually starts.
Well, Michael, that sounds like a really good point, the business plan. How about we talk about the key ingredients it takes, the formula, if you will, when starting a business, the key ingredients to success?
We have detailed in the book certain things that you need to understand. You know, you need to know where you're going within the business, what you're doing within the business. You need to know how to measure your progress. You need to know your cash flow, and you need to know how to use your financial data. So these are very, very important points. Cash flow is very important. A business can be profitable, but it can fail because of lack of continuous cash flow.
Right.
So people who are looking at starting a business need to understand these issues.
Again, some really good points, Michael. So you mentioned earlier about some overseas clients that we have. Why would they want to set up shop in Australia, so to speak?
Well, Isabelle, there's a number of factors there. Oftentimes they're running a company or an entity out of the US or the UK or Europe, by way of examples, and they feel that there's the possibility of running a profitable business via either a subsidiary or a branch office in Australia. So they make, we have a website called Starting Business in Australia, and that generates inquiry, and we then speak to these people about the advantages of setting up business in Australia. And there are lots of advantages. You know, we've got a very politically stable country. We've got a strong economy.
Yes.
You know, our business environment's ranked 9th out of 190 economies for ease of doing business.
Doing very well.
So that's great. We've got the weather and climate to suit business. We're not like Chicago, for example, where they're snowed in for 3 months of the year and just getting to work poses a real problem. We don't have that situation in Australia. Our health system is very robust. We've got a skilled workforce and a high level of education. But notwithstanding the fact that you don't need any qualifications to start a business in Australia, you are able to employ people in Australia that are highly qualified to help you with running that business in Australia. It's a very secure place to live. The crime rate's very low. It's a multilingual and multicultural society.
Of course.
And emigrating to Australia and obtaining business visas, whilst it can be time consuming for the right people, it's not a major issue.
Yeah, of course.
So lots of positives there, Isabelle.
There certainly are. So let's say you've done all the planning, the thinking, and you really do want to start your business, and it's time to talk about and think about the business structure. You know, will it be a company or a sole trader and all of that? Which structure is the best, and how do you go about deciding?
Well, most businesses that we advise on set up initially as a company. You've got 4 major types of business structures: sole trader, partnership, trust, and company. But in terms of the advice that we give clients, invariably with the low company tax rate in Australia now, it's currently 25%, and it's budgeted to go lower in future years. The company tends to be, for most, the best trading vehicle.
Sure.
Trusts can be very effective as well. However, they have their place, and we would want to work through all the steps to work out whether a trust is an option in lieu of a company.
So, Michael, what's the process of giving advice in terms of the structure of the business?
So what we do is we sit down with the client, or we have a Skype or a Zoom with a potential client, and we'll go through the advantages and disadvantages of each structure. As I say, there are 4, and we would then give our advice as to the best structure for the entity to set up as.
Of course, yeah. It'd have to be tailored advice to the individual, of course.
Of course, yeah. No two facts are the same. So we'd want to get a background into, for example, if it was an overseas person that was looking at setting up in Australia, what their US or UK or European business was doing, and what they were trying to achieve in Australia, in setting up in Australia, and we tailor make the structure to those particular facts.
Of course. So what about, you've chosen your structure, say, and now you want to go about registering and actually going through the actual process of starting your business in terms of the legal registration, the taxation. So what do you have to register for your business for tax purposes, for example?
Well, that's a great question, Isabelle. The first thing is, let's assume that we are forming a company for a new client, whether they be Australian-based or overseas. The first thing that they have to do is to form the company, and then they have to open a company bank account. A company receives an Australian company number known as an ACN. And we also need to apply for tax registrations for the business. And those tax registrations include obtaining an Australian business number known as an ABN. They need to register for goods and services tax known as VAT overseas. Goods and services tax is known as GST in Australia. Need to register for pay-as-you-go withholding, and that is tax on salaries and wages if you have employees.
Of course, yeah.
And you also need to register for a tax file number for the company. So partnership, if we formed a partnership, it would have a separate tax file number, a company has a separate tax file number, and a trust has a separate tax file number.
Sure.
So they're the 4 main tax registrations that we have to go through, and that needs to be done fairly quickly after forming the company. So they're the 4 main tax registrations that are required.
Wonderful. So Michael, we might leave it there for today. If anyone listening would like a copy of your new book, This Definitive Guide to Starting a Business in Australia, could you tell them how they could get in touch?
They just have to contact us, Isabelle, on info@quinns.com.au, or they can phone our 1300 number, which is 1300 Quinns, or alternatively get in contact at our Sydney office on the Sydney phone number, which is 029 223 9166, and we'd be more than happy to help. And obviously, if you're looking at starting a new business in Australia, whether you be from within Australia or overseas, please get in contact. We'd love to help in that regard.
Oh, wonderful. Well, thank you, Michael, again. To everyone listening to the Quintessential Podcast, we'll be back here again next week, where we'll be discussing more about starting a business in Australia as part of our 3-part series in the podcast. Thanks for listening, and bye for now.